Hey guys, Weiss here. Welcome to another video. This is one I've been wanting to do for a long time. It's a follow-up to one I did earlier on 15 Atari 2600 games I still play a lot. This is 15 more Atari 2600 games I still play a lot. Now I know there are certain gamers, and maybe some of you watching this are like this. You only like games from NES forward, or you just like more modern games perhaps. A lot of you consider the Atari 2600 unplayable, but there are about, I don't know, 50 or so Atari 2600 games I still like to play a lot. This is my second grouping of 15 games that I still really enjoy and that still get time in my 2600 or VCS console. All right, let's get to the 15 very briefly. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. I would appreciate it. So number 15, Tacx Scan. Hey, look at that, a Sega game for the Atari 2600. Pretty cool, huh? This is not a perfect game, but I find it fun. It's based on this 1982 Sega arcade game. You control a 5-ship squadron that's in a fixed position at the bottom of the screen. It sort of goes like this, and you fire in 3 directions at enemies approaching from above. Now the action does get a little redundant, and there are 7 ships at the bottom of the screen in the arcade version, but I think it's fun, just good mindless fun. And if you just like shooting games that are pretty basic, Tacx Scan might be for you. Number 14, another simple game. Cosmic Ark by the good folks at Magic. It's a sequel of sorts to Atlantis because it's got the flying saucer from that game. So there's a nicely rendered, really vibrantly colored mothership in the center of the screen. It shoots meteors up, down, right, and left. And it's just simple. As these meteors come out, you just have to be quick, shooting up, down, right, and left. Nothing to it. It is fun, and it does require some quick reflexes. And then, after that, a flying saucer comes out of this mothership, and you lower a tractor beam to rescue these 2 beasties, whatever they're called that, I'm not sure, but you have to watch out for this laser beam. Simple stuff, but still good fun. Number 14, Cosmic Ark. Number 13 is Atlantis, another game from the good folks at Magic. Now this is not as complex as the Intellivision version. It's simple. Again, there's that word, simple. That's one reason I like Atari. You control 3 stationary cannons, one in the middle and one on each side, that fire at a Gorgon ships that fly back and forth. These ships that fly back and forth, very nicely rendered. They fly back and forth and get lower and lower, and they will fire lasers at the cities below, and you just shoot them as they go back and forth, you know, and it's just simple, good fun. I like me some Atlantis. Now I like the Intellivision version better because it's a much deeper game, but the 2600 version is fun. And when I want something more simple than the Intellivision version, Atlantis, not a bad game. That was number 13. Number 12 is from Atari, Midnight Magic. This is an upgrade over their video pinball game. It's still a simple game. There's that word again, simple. Maybe I'm just simple-minded, I don't know. So there's no motion controls like with modern pinball games. There's not even a nudge button. But it is solid pinball. It's got bumpers, a score multiplier, and a spinner. It's got drop targets. It has the basics of pinball, even though you can't, nudge or shove the machine. It does play a good, basic, and fun version of pinball. Fairly decent looking game too. Number 12, Midnight Magic. Number 11 is Spider Fighter. Now you're gonna find several games from Activision on here. We all know that Activision is a great company. It was the first third-party video game company, and they made some of the very best games for the Atari 2600. Now this is an easy shooter, which is kind of a change of pace for shooters. Shooters tend to be difficult, but Spider Fighter is easy, which is a nice change of pace. And you fire in, group shots of 3. You fire these pellets, and you protect 4 types of fruit up at the top of the screen. Again, and there's a difference between simple and easy. Spider Fighter is both simple and easy. There are simple games that are very difficult, but Spider Fighter, it's just kind of a relaxing shooter, which is an unusual game, which is, unusual for the genre. You don't particularly think of relaxing and shooter. That's one reason I like Spider Fighter at number 11. Number 10 of the Atari 2600 games I still play a lot. Now, a lot of you guys might enjoy this one as well. This is my favorite Star Wars game on the 2600, The Empire Strikes Back. And yes, I do have this beautifully illustrated box. I love that. I collect boxes when I can. Obviously, I'm not fanatical about boxes, but I do like to have them, you know, when the price is right. And I've had this one for a long time. I really like The Empire Strikes Back. It is very simple. You pilot a snow speeder on the planet Hoth, you know, the ice planet, and you shoot missiles at Imperial walkers as they walk toward the the rebels' power generator. And you have to shoot them 48 times to bring them down. And if you do well for a stretch in the game, you'll get the Force, which makes you invincible. It's a fun game, and it has some elements of Defender, but with a Star Wars theme. Great game, I love it. I would love to see this kind of simplicity brought back to a new console with a Star Wars type game. Very cool. Number 9. Now, a lot of you guys, maybe you've never even heard of this game. It's called Fast Eddie, and I've seen this game on lists of like worst Atari 2600 games, but I think it's a lot of fun and I still play it fairly regularly. You move Fast Eddie up and down ladders and across platforms. You guys know I like the climbing genre. And, you know, the non-scrolling platform genre, if you will. You collect floating prizes, and you avoid or jump over sneakers, which is kind of a funny visual. And it's just a colorful, underrated game that I have a lot of fun playing, Fast Eddie. So check it out if you like to hunt for hidden gems or obscurities or underrated games. Number 8, Solar Fox by CBS Electronics. Maybe you remember John Madden advertising CBS Electronics games. I really like Solar Fox a lot. It's based on the Bally Midway 1981 game where you move a ship up and down and back and forth over patterns of small squares, and you want to touch each of the small squares to finish the screen. And unlike the arcade version, there's no shooting, you just dodge enemies. Now this is an unusual example where they take shooting out of a game. You know, usually, you know, Atari 2600 ports will typically be simplified and remove some elements, but they don't typically take out such a huge gameplay element as actual shooting, but they do so in the case of Solar Fox, but it's still a ton of fun. Solar Fox, very cool at number 8. Number 7. Video Olympics. This is basically a collection of Pong variations, and Pong is still, I still love Pong. It's still one of the best multiplayer games of any genre, of any era. Pong holds up extremely well. If any of you have played that recently, just maybe on a Pong clone, or maybe some of the classics collections or whatever, you will find that Video Olympics Pong basically holds up still very well, and it works great with the Atari 2600 paddle controllers. Now, occasionally I can get my family together, my 2 grown kids and my wife, for some 4-player action, like maybe on my birthday or special occasions or on holidays when we have some extra time, maybe in the summer. And we'll occasionally play some Video Olympics, some 4-player fun. I love when that happens. It is a blast. Now, there are certain variations in Video Olympics that sort of get away from Pong, like basketball. It's not as Pong-like as the actual Pong variations. Those aren't as fun, but if you're sticking with the Pong-type games in Video Olympics, it's a lot of fun. That's number 7. Now, number 6 is a vilified game, Donkey Kong. Now, Donkey Kong on the 2600 doesn't quite get the hate that the Intellivision version does, but people too say, you know, the graphics are blocky and it only has 2 screens. True and true, but I still find it to be a lot of fun. It was programmed by a very talented programmer, Gary Kitchen. There's no music and it has sparse sound effects, and it's missing the elevators and the conveyor belts levels, but it has tight controls, it has no flickering, jumping works well, climbing works well, and it's just a different kind of challenge than the, you know, you've got an arcade perfect Donkey Kong over here, that's great, and you want to play that, but occasionally you'll want a different challenge and play Donkey Kong on the 2600. I think it's a lot of fun at number 6. Number 5, once again, we have a simplified version of an arcade classic, Phoenix. Now, Phoenix could use some more options, like maybe some harder difficulty modes and a 2-player alternating mode. Heck, I'd go for a 2-player simultaneous. How cool would that be? Like with some other games for, Atari games ported to home, like Space Invaders. But Phoenix retains the classic shooting out action of the arcade game. The music has been removed, there are fewer enemies, and there's no birds in the mothership screen, but at least it retains the mothership screen, which is awesome. It's a solid shooter that could use some options, like I said, but it still gets the job done. I love shooting, and Phoenix certainly supplies plenty of shooting. Phoenix at number 5. Number 4, now this is a game that divides people. A lot of people love this game, a lot of people hate it. Freeway. It's sort of like Frogger, where you're, instead of a frog hopping across a highway, you're moving a chicken across a 10-lane highway. Why does a chicken cross the road? Because it's fun. And it's more simplistic because you can't move right or left. There's no river to cross. But the sound effects are great. It has solid graphics. I love the sound the chicken makes when he's run over. And the horns honking sound great, and it's excellent as a 2-player simultaneous game, which Frogger does not offer. When you're both trying to race across the screen as many times as you can within a set time frame, that is a ton of fun. Freeway at number 4. My wife will play this game with me from time to time, which is a huge bonus. Number 3, Pressure Cooker. This is one of the more complex games for the Atari 2600 by Activision, and I play it. It's one of the more complex action-oriented games, I should say. I play it on the Activision Anthology for the PS2 because I don't own this cartridge. For whatever reason, all my years of collecting, Pressure Cooker has just never fallen into my lap for the right price. I never saw it at a garage sale for $1 or at a convention under the table in a clearance box, nothing like that. So I play it on the PS2 on Activision Anthology, which has a bunch of other great games. But Pressure Cooker, you guide an animated, a colorfully animated chef around a detailed kitchen. You get burger parts and you place them on hamburgers that are coming down a conveyor belt. And the items in the game are instantly recognizable, which is not always the case with Atari games. And you can juggle up to 3 orders at once. You will have to do that at one point if you play the game long enough. And it gets frantic and difficult, and you have to think very quickly in this game, and you have to concentrate a lot. It has the sort of concentration level of Kaboom, but more complicated gameplay. That's Pressure Cooker at number 3. Hopefully I'll find the cartridge at some point. Maybe I'd find the box copy, who knows. Number 2, Dodgem. Now this is a game, I think I like this more than most people. It is a lot of fun. You drive around a circle, like a raceway with several tracks, and you run over dots. You sort of gobble dots like Pac-Man to make the dots disappear. But you're facing another car going the opposite direction, an enemy car that will get in your lane, and you crash head on. Now the game is based on Sega's 1979 arcade game Head On, which as far as I know is the first maze game of this type where you make dots disappear. So Dodgem was an unauthorized port or clone of Head On, and it plays extremely well. And if you play it, it's a very, if you just have 5 minutes to spare and you want to play a game, Dodgem games don't last very long because it is very difficult. So you just have a few minutes to spare, Dodgem could be your game, because after a little bit, a second enemy car will appear on the screen and it gets very difficult. It's a ton of fun, Dodgem. And number 1 on my list of 15 Atari 2600 games I still play a lot to this day. You may have guessed this one because it's so amazing, and it is another Activision title, Chopper Command. I love Chopper Command. This game kicks some serious ass. A lot of people call it Defender in the Desert. You got a helicopter gunship back and forth, firing lasers at helicopters and jets. It's fast and frenetic and super fun, and you protect a row of trucks that are traveling below. It is difficult. Again, like Dodgem, games don't last a really long time, so you can play this if you just have a few minutes to spare. That's what I like about Atari 2600 games, a lot of them anyway. They don't take long to play. They're easy to figure out. Some of them are hard to master, like Chopper Command, like Dodgem. I don't know that you necessarily master these games. You just stay alive as long as possible. All right, I'm glad I finally got to this video. I want you guys to let me know in the comments what are some Atari 2600 games that you still play today? And let me know what I left off this list. But also keep in mind that I did a list like this previously with 15 other Atari 2600 games I still play to this day. So you'll want to click on the link. I will include that in the description. You'll want to click on that link and watch the other video. But either way, just let me know what Atari 2600 games you still enjoy today. Ones that you still feel hold up and that will still hold the attention of you and just, you know, gamers in general. I think the Atari 2600 as a console still holds up as long as you're playing the right games. And I've given you 15 I think qualify. All right, guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for liking this video, and thank you for subscribing to the channel. I will talk to you guys in another video. If you're a fan of my work, you might want to consider supporting me on Patreon. For just a low fee each month, you get a lot of extra content. Another way to support the channel and my writing career is to buy books direct from me, including the 100 Greatest Console Video Games, the Classic Home Video Game Series. It's like an encyclopedia set. And this massive bad boy, the NES Omnibus Volume 1 A through L. I will put links in the description of this video where you can buy books direct from me and where you can support me on Patreon. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it.